So it turns out that Dahaka, the latest co-op commander in StarCraft 2, is rather powerful. I got him to level 15 last night, which means that I've got all of the upgrades unlocked as well as my mastery points. And it turns out that if you play him well, you can actually solo brutal missions. So to show you the strategy that I play, I have selected the Rifts to Korhal map as well as the brutal difficulty, and it's time to jump into a game. Alright, so here's how we're gonna do this. I asked my ally to go ahead and lift up the command center and just simply run his SCVs to their deaths, because I am gonna need his bases, which is the only rule I suppose that I'm going for right here.
Will result in the city's destruction and catastrophic civilian casualties. We need to destroy those shards.
Alrighty, looks like we're going up against Terran today. That's alright. So there's a couple of really powerful things that you have on Dahaka. First and foremost, generally speaking, his most gas-heavy units, most notably the Mutalisk as well as the Guardian, are absolutely amazing. Like, if you max out on an army based around the Guardian as well as, the Guardian as well as the Mutalisk, you're gonna have a great time against both ground as well as air. So that's probably what we're gonna be focusing on here primarily. Now, in the early game, I do want to build up as much income as I possibly can. So, we're going to have to make sure that we survive the early game without really making a whole lot of units. That is arguably the most tricky part. I want to make sure that I build up full economy and on as many of those bases as I can. Next up, before I get my Warden going, I'm going to get one Extractor here, which lines up perfectly. We're going to get one Extractor, and then next up, we're going to get the Warden. So, that means that by the time the Warden finishes, I can immediately start up Gleivik's Den right here, which is a very, very important structure as well. Essentially, what I'm trying to do is build up that economy, live through the early game on mostly Dahaka and some smaller units for support, and then build up that Guardian Mutalisk ball.
They don't look too friendly.
I do need to make sure that I get all of these cooldowns going at the top panel as well, so we're rushing out these dens ASAP, and with that I'm going to get my second Extractor going too. For now, I'm spending a little bit of time right here on Dahaka knocking down these debris, but shortly I'm going to have to deep tunnel him towards the main base, because we'll figure out what opponents we're going up against. Now, generally speaking, I go for a wide variety here actually of the different points here, depending on what opponent we are facing. So let's go ahead and deep tunnel back. I'm also going to put this guy in position. And indeed, I'm going to go ahead and pick up Leap as well as Devour. So I should be able to clean this first one up reasonably easy with just Dahaka. Devour is incredible on biological units. It just simply makes him so much more powerful there. So there we go. Second base is done. Gas is coming in. I'm getting Gleivik's Den here too. Now, in the early game, I'm really not focusing here on any of the upgrades out of the very first dens. Instead, I'm going to get all of the upgrades from the second den. So that is primarily what we're focusing on. On top of that, I also want to make sure here that I get the Primal Carapace as well as the Primal Attacks. I'm going to level this up to the maximum level as soon as I can. And with that, I will also be getting more and more gas. Because honestly, gas seems to be the limiting factor here on Dahaka in most of these games that I've played him thus far. So that's a pretty important thing to keep in mind as well. Now, obviously, while you're leveling up, you're not quite going to be able to pull off a strategy like this yet, but he does seem, like, as long as you manage to max out on the unit composition I just mentioned, he does seem to be awfully powerful. There's very little downside to doing that. Now, actually, for now, I haven't quite figured it out perfectly just yet. I think I'm going to cancel that upgrade, go for the Hive a little bit faster here instead, and then start up the second den here too, because really we're limited here by time on that second den in particular, because that one allows me to get both the Mutalisk as well as the Guardians. Essentially, in that second den, in Murfar's den, we're gonna get all of the upgrades. We're gonna get all of the upgrades. Now, this is the time where we are gonna be on a bit of a timer. We got 7 minutes remaining before we really need to start moving to the next objective point, but, I mean, even though I haven't quite, like, min-maxed this strategy just yet, and there's still a little bit of optimization that I can do, it's already been working out really well. So let's go ahead and get a couple of units here. I'm getting a handful of Zerglings. I'm also getting a Roacher and a couple of Lynx, just to make sure that I can defend against this next wave here too. Rocks are currently down, so that's very nice. And we'll see what this next attack wave is going to be. It's probably going to be very similar. But we're very much so limited by gas. So I'm going to get quite a bit of gas here in the early game. I know we're going to float. But considering the Guardians as well as the Mutalisk all require additional sets of gas, it gets very pricey very quickly. Alright. I don't really want to lose units, but I mean, if I have to, it's not that big of a deal either. So this base is shortly going to be finishing up. There's another attack wave here coming in. I think I'm going to go ahead and pick up the Ment upgrade here. That will essentially allow me to get my units, or just, keep my units alive for a little while longer, because now Dahaka gets a passive regeneration all around him, which is very nice. Alright, so that hive is once again burrowed. That means that I can continue building up more and more workers now for the third base as well. Next up, I'm going to be getting my third den here as well, but here are all of the upgrades I want to get. I want to get the top row here as quickly as I possibly can. So first off, I think I'm going to get some of the Guardians out. So that means I'm going to get the Explosive Spores as well as the Primordial Fury. And essentially what all of those upgrades do is that they strengthen the Guardian. One, for example, allows them to go ahead and just deal more damage, and that's kind of the point that we're trying to look at. Now, I am going to need a couple more Wardens here as well. Wardens are essentially my unit-producing structures, so I'm going to move this one over here to the front just a little bit more so we can create a little bit of space there. I do also want to make sure that I get my upgrades out ASAP, so +2 attack, I'll start that up ASAP here too. There we go. Can I fly that thing away? Yes, I can. Perfect. And at this point, I'm going to start making some of my roaches. So the roaches are essentially the units that we need here to morph into Guardians. The Hydras morph into Mutalisk, and the roaches morph into Guardians. So I can already go ahead and get my first one. Now this requires me the cost of 2 of these roaches, as well as the cost of additional, like an additional 100 gas there to get the Guardian out. Just by simply morphing them together when they fight each other to the death. So it is rather important that I get that at least reasonably early. I think I'm going to build... about 5 of these Wardens. I think that's about what we're looking at. And already at this point, I've started to get to an amount of economy where I can really just support whatever I please, which is quite nice. I can really start making a lot of army here already.
Don't let it run out before you destroy that void shard.
Let's go ahead and get a couple more Guardians here too. I know that there's an attack wave coming in, so I have to be a little careful here. But now that I've got all of these cooldowns ready to go, I'm really not all too worried just yet. So notice in the early game, we're just fine. I do have to be a little careful here, because obviously I don't want to lose any of these units. But as long as we're doing a decent job here, everything will fall. Let's go ahead and put these drones back into the gas. I ended up losing some of them. I'll also be looking here to take my my fourth base here rather instead. And while I'm limited on gas, I don't need as many dudes on the mineral gathering. I don't really need all too many of those. Next up, I'm gonna get all of the Muta upgrades as well. The Muta upgrades are incredible. One of the upgrades, for example, allows me to get my Mutas to do a lot more damage to other air units, which is great. There's another upgrade as well that allows me to focus, for example, on what are they called? Basically, they take less damage while flying around. And then the last one is that if they take critical damage, so they die, they can return to life within a minute. So it's actually rather powerful as well. It's like a minute cooldown. It's very good. And I'm basically just getting a combination of roaches and Hydralisk here to make sure that I can get all of these units out. Now, I'm still messing around, by the way, with my mastery points. This one, for example, has got adrenal glands, which is pretty good. But anyway, apparently Faraday is freaking out here. So let's go ahead and start pushing forward. And this is the moment where I can really easily start cleaning up most of these objectives already. Notice my my supply count right here as well, by the way. We're already getting to a point where it's actually looking pretty menacing already.
Enemy attack. They're heading towards us now.
So let's go ahead and just get more and more units.
Good work.
And this is, by the way, also the moment where you can see I'm starting to lack a bunch of I'm lacking a bunch of gas here. So I'm getting some of the worms here too. We'll clean up this next attack wave, and then I'll go straight for the second objective point here too. Still getting more and more Mutas, more and more Guardians, and more experience here on the Haka. Getting 3-3 now too, which is an important one. There we go. Also, by the way, the passive regeneration on the Haka is really good, as well as, of course, the cloak detection. I think those upgrades are all really important. Next up, though, since we triggered a big pack here, I think I'm going to start moving for this main quest objective. The main objective that we are looking for, and I'm going to do so by popping all of my cooldowns. So the cooldowns are on a 6-minute timer. That is rather important to realize. They take a long time to come back. But if you use them all at once, it's very tough to lose. So right now we're pushing into that second objective. I'm buying myself a lot of time here on the main objective too. You may have already noticed here that this is gonna be pretty straightforward at this point. Second void shards are down. I want to make sure that I get my +3 armor here too.
Make sure you destroy all of them.
But I think next up I want to make sure that I get myself some more Mutas out so we can focus on the bonus objective too. And ideally I'm going to use my my cooldowns at the 4th objective here as well. So that means that I have to be a little bit careful. This is a bonus objective that is rather tricky. We just simply have to be careful that we don't lose all of our dudes. So I'm gonna have to micro them around just like that. And I'm still just making a lot of stuff, but already you may notice here, my supply count, it's saying that I'm maxed out here as well, which is great. And I focused on a lot of, like, you know, powerful units here. I'm just simply making a maxed out air army, and at that moment you can just easily clean everything up that's on the map. It's kind of insane. It's kind of wild. Actually, I'm getting the wrong units right now. I don't mean to... Oh no, I'm getting some impalers. That's okay, not that big of a deal. At this point though, since I've got so many minerals already, I think I'm gonna sacrifice some of my drones, because I don't really need any more. So I'm gonna send these guys in. That means that I open up more supply count here for other units instead, which is very nice. And I'll also be getting here my Keen Senses, the third wave here, as well as the ultimate ability for the Haka. Let's put you in the middle of the map. That wasn't quite necessary. And even though my army doesn't look very menacing, this is a very powerful force. Now, we got a lot of time here. Like I said, I want to save my my cooldowns for the next, or rather for the fourth objective point as well. But notice, right, you may have already seen here that there's quite a bit of room for improvement here for me as well. But already, now that I'm mining from this much gas, I can pretty much do whatever I please. I can get some of these worms, for example, which do cost 2 supply each. They're extremely powerful. The mass worm style is extremely powerful, but I can use those as well to deep tunnel towards the objective points if I really want to. And right now, since my mutas and whatnot can just simply come back anyway, and the Haka can one-shot essentially everything here on the map, it just becomes a matter of time before we can easily get all of these bases cleaned up as well. So right now I'm getting that deadly reach upgrade on the Haka too. I'm gonna consume the hybrid, gives me a bunch of HP back. And while you may notice here that I'm taking a bunch of damage and I'm recreating a lot of my army as well, I'm replacing it once again with a really powerful, you know, other force as well. And I'm just simply getting a similar or same amount of units here as well. I'm just going for the same setup here, while slowly getting more and more of these upgraded, mutated units with these additional genes. So currently I'm, by the way, also getting 3-3. I'm a little late on that one. A little silly by me, but it's okay. The Haka is actually running a bit low. It's okay if he dies, by the way. I don't really care if he dies at this point. I need to get rid of some drones anyway.
You best get ready. Enemies
Alright.
headed for our base.
So we got 11.5 minutes remaining.
Your reputations are well earned. These void shards are dropping like flies.
I know.
We got it. That one's down for the count.
Home stretch,
There's
Commander.
another
One
bonus
more
objective
group
though.
of shards to go. Those filthy pirates are trying for another score. Let's
Get
lay
'em.
down the law, Commanders.
So it's just so straightforward, but it deals so awfully, like, it deals so much damage. I'm getting a lot of mutas here as well, which by the way are my primary anti-air tool, which may sound a little bit funny, but the mutas are insanely good at air-to-air combat. So that is the reason why we're getting those.
Our forces are under attack.
I'm gonna be getting my upgrades here as well on the Haka. He's slowly getting more and more units out. And I think at this point I'm also gonna tunnel some of the worms over, just because I want to make sure that I get this bonus objective taken care of as well. So I could technically go ahead and use my major cooldowns at this point, but I don't think I really need to. Trying to make sure here that I consume some of these other flyers as well, so we can deal some more anti-air damage. Want to be careful there, Loco. No need to lose everything. Let's get some more Hydras going, so I can get some more mutas. I guess I can just get these Guardians out of here, right? No particular reason to have the Guardians here. The Haka did die right now, but that's okay. Let's just feed him some workers.
Pirate ship neutralized.
That base is gonna be dead.
Nothing worse than
I don't really need all these minerals anyway. Look at my mineral count right now, for example, by the way. It's kind of wild. I think I'm also gonna kill my own impalers. I'm sorry, guys. I thought maybe you would be decent, but when I accidentally made you, I hoped you would be a little bit better than this, but you really haven't been very necessary here at all. Alright, get some more mutas out. One of them apparently still trying to stay alive here. But now that the Haka is at level 12, there's only a couple of levels remaining. I got all of the cooldowns ready to go here for the final objective. I'm gonna clean up here the bottom part of this ramp. I'm gonna hotkey all of these worms as well. But essentially, you can already see where this is going, right? I mean, I am easily cleaning up this brutal mission without any issues here whatsoever. No issues whatsoever. I'm not even rushing it, right? There's a lot of time remaining.
Enemy attack. They're heading towards us now.
Alright, so I cleaned up the bottom part of this ramp. That's usually a bit tricky. Let's go ahead and and get these dudes out as well. So notice, by the way, I'm really not making use of the roaches or the Hydralisk. I'm just simply using them as a stepping stone. Well, that did a lot of damage. Whew, I actually just lost everything to a whole bunch of those missiles. That's a little unfortunate, but, you know, considering I can just rebuild everything in just a matter of seconds anyway, it's not that big of a deal.
In combat.
I actually lost a lot more there than I had anticipated, and I also made some more accidental impalers here. Although, actually, I think these guys may just hang out over here for a little while. One important thing, by the way, on the Haka is that even past level 15, he continues getting strength from Essence. So you do want to try and make sure that you get as many of those essences as you can find. But already, right, like notice, I'm not really microing my units very well. I'm just sort of winging it here for the most part. I'm not min-maxing this very well whatsoever. And still, even though we're soloing something that's supposed to be done with 2 players, we got a very powerful force here that just simply allows us to complete this with relative ease. So let's get a handful more Guardians going. There you go. Just kill each other, boys. I know it's unfortunate. I know it's not what you signed up for, but you'll be all right. What level is the Haka right now? He's 14. He's almost gonna be at the maximum level. The Guardians are coming in. I think I'm gonna get my worms here on the high ground as well. And we're gonna spawn in my main cooldowns right at this point as well. Putting down as many of these worms too. Dropping some frames. Just because we're spawning so much. And at this point, I'm just simply gonna rally all of my units across here as well. So, like, it's kind of wild, right? I'm not even, like, playing this perfectly. I don't even have to do a whole lot of min-maxing. This worked out the first attempt that I had. I could probably do more and you know, faster solo missions on the Haka with relative ease as well. For example, one of the really powerful units as well on the Haka is the Swarm Host. The Creeper Host kind of thing. It's extremely good at what it does. And I think that mixing a couple of those in might even allow me to get the Mutas and whatnot out a little quicker as well, just because you don't really need the other stepping stone kind of units. But here we go.
That's all of the void shards.
The solo, brutal difficulty on the Haka.
So easily defeated.
Now the question is the Haka a little bit too powerful? I'm not entirely sure myself. I know that it's most definitely doable to solo a lot of these missions as well on other co-op commanders, but the Haka seems to have a really easy time carrying himself to the victory. Now the funny thing is that we almost make it look like it's a hard difficulty and not actually brutal. Now I can guarantee you that it is indeed brutal. I mean, you can see right there by the difficulty bonus. As far as the statistics go, my ally ended up killing absolutely nothing. As we expected, and apparently we ended up dealing 55,000 damage here to the shards, which is actually pretty substantial. And actually, apparently the Haka himself, even though he didn't hit level 15 until the very ending, he ended up dealing 21,450 there in total, which is very, very solid. So the Haka, most definitely an extremely powerful co-op commander. I hope I at the very least gave you some ideas of strategies that you can potentially play on the Haka. I have tried out a wide variety of them. I mean, there's like all kinds of unit compositions that you can try and make work, and this is definitely not my go-to either. But the Guardians and the Mutalisk, combined with the strength of the Haka himself, as well as some of the worms on the ground, they are extremely powerful. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button down below. And if you want to see more, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get a notification as soon as I upload more. Other than that, I want to thank you very much so for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile alright, and I will see you in the next one.